Welcome to the first episode of Live Your Legacy podcast with Mike Moore, Ben Parker. This podcast has kind of come into fruition from something me and Ben used to do here at our office, KW Legacy, where we would interview agents, mega agents here in our office, and try to provide their story and successes to agents who are looking at building themselves up to a certain level of production or a certain level in personal work-life balance, trying to grab their wisdom and give it to other people.
What was the name of it?
It was just the
Lunch.
Yeah, Lunch with a Mega Agent.
Lunch with a Mega. That was how this started.
Yeah, it wasn't very creative. It's Lunch with a Mega Agent. Pretty self-explanatory.
But we weren't recording anything.
So we were just.
You were doing these fantastic interviews, and it was like, you get a huge crowd of people, and we decided, I finally showed up to, I think it was like the second or third interview, and I thought, wow, this would be great to have on a recording for us to share with people. We've talked about this, if these people don't have access to those individuals or want to go back and watch and get something from some of the questions you've asked them. I can remember that first interview, just hearing the agent's story, man, like where they started, the struggles. Like, I don't think there's a human aspect to a lot of these people that we
from the outside looking in,
look up to. And we think their life's easy and that they, they didn't have the same struggles and things that we've experienced.
Everything, the grass always looks greener on the other side. And you helped us kick off the second half of the year. You were our June 1st Mega. And that was when we started talking and kind of seeing how we could evolve it, because people, they were missing it. If you didn't show up that day, you didn't get to hear what the Mega said. So that kind of is where we went from how do we take this to the next level to just, at first, really just help agents in our office. We didn't really think we would post this on YouTube and try to help everyone. We just really wanted to help legacy agents internally. And then KT Temple, he started his podcast, and he was a voice as well to why are you doing this great content and not sharing it with people who might get value for it from it.
He kind of pushed the decision after we spoke with him about, logistical stuff, which is normally where people kind of, get caught up is in the details, and it's like, we just need to get out there and do it. And then, a series of fantastic interviews happened after that, right? Karen Code, Nina Golden, the mayor. And we've got an incredible season lined up for you guys. Like this video podcast, however you want to describe, podcast,
whatever the technical term is,
And we came up with a name. Live Your Legacy is the name of it. Mike can kind of explain he kind of came up with that name more than, I would say I did, just because of, we wanted to incorporate the legacy part of it, and as everyone wants to kind of say over, I think, the span of their life that they've made an impact on others, right? And so we wanted to provide a platform for people to do that. I think that's the most important thing, right?
Really.
For people to have, even if it's like just a small impact on others' lives.
One little nugget from each interview.
I think that's really important. And I know that's one of my personal goals from being involved in this.
Right.
We can expand on that a little bit more. But today we just wanted to kind of introduce ourselves and tell our story. We've spent, somewhat significant amount of time together, but never really sat down together and kind of asked each other about our lives and
outside of work, really.
And how we progressed from, how we grew up even, right? And where we grew up in that culture all the way up to where we are now, and the decision to kind of live a life of, with the servant mindset of helping others and making an impact on others' lives. That's one thing that we do share, the two of us, and are passionate about. And that's kind of how we've teamed up in this. I mean, I'd love to find out, you know, I know I've asked you before, like, about your history and where you grew up and stuff, and you told me you have a lot of pride for your heritage. You have a strong Italian, you know, heritage, and your family grew up, you know, over there in Italy, and so just like, where's your family from? Where did you live when you were a child, and what did that, like, how did you view your life back then?
Yeah. You know? So from my father's side of the family, Sicilian. From when my
Sicilian.
And so that's the little island right at the bottom of Italy, and they come from the Moors come from a little town called Bagaria, and it's right outside of Palermo, which is the capital of the region.
Mm-hmm.
My mother's side, my Italian family, is from Palermo, the capital, and then I've got one relative who comes from Calabria. It's a little town called Stellati, which is the bottom of Calabria. Calabria is the region right next to Sicily.
Right.
And so I grew up in a town of about 32,000 people, but it was named Rome, New York. And so that, I mean, the name gives it away. It was a very Italian town.
Right.
That's the culture I grew up in. I grew up not only being an Italian American, but really, I couldn't have gotten away from it if I tried.
Right. You're immersed in that.
Yeah, everything.
Culture and all of the things that go along with the traditional, everything traditional.
Yeah, very much so.
Okay, cool.
And so that was my upbringing, very much so. You know, like, there's not a whole lot to do in my hometown. 30,000 people to some people sounds big, but in New York, that's a small-ish town.
Yeah.
So there wasn't, you know, a whole lot to do at a young age. So you would do things like the biggest thing in Rome, New York is the World Series of Bocce, or bocce, depending on where you're from and how you say it.
Oh, that's where that's held?
So it's one of the big tournaments is in Rome. People come from Canada. Some people come from the old country. Pennsylvania, Ohio's a big participant in the World Series of Bocce. So that was like the big thing to do in Rome, New York. You wait for July 14th because that's...
Are you good at that game?
I'm not as good as some of these guys. Once you get on the court and you hear fluent Italian being spoken, you know you're going to lose.
Yeah,
those old dudes are going to smoke you.
Yeah.
You know, he may be in his 80s, but he's gonna make you. He's gonna embarrass you.
That's great.
Yeah, and so that's a huge part of my identity, and that's a huge part of the community I try to get back to when we talk about being servant to a community. I love being there to grow and cultivate and promote the Italian American community.
Yeah.
Born in New York, but now helping grow it here in the Carolinas is a real goal of mine.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so from Rome, New York, so you grew up there until you were, what age were you when
18.
you left there? 18.
Yeah.
And then what? You
then
went to
I enlisted in the Army, yep.
Went into the Army. And how was that? Like, how many years were you in there?
Yep, so I did 3 years.
What was that? What were you ranked at that time? Like you?
Yeah, so the highest rank I got was corporal, which is an NCO rank, but it's still the pay grade of an E4, a specialist.
Okay.
So you're given a little bit more responsibility with the same amount of pay.
Right.
And so in those 3 years, I got up to corporal, and I was in Fort Polk, Louisiana.
Okay. Never left. Never was like sent off anywhere.
I got sent across the country to a few places: Mississippi, Fort A.P. Hill in Virginia. I spent a little time at the border. There was a border mission that they wanted the infantry to do to kind of help border patrol. Okay. So I was sent a few places, but never overseas. We never were deployed or anything like that in my time at that unit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel that experience of being in the military, you know, I don't want to say changed you, but like how do you feel that impacted your like before that to after you in the military? Like what does that do for an individual? I mean, I can remember my brother was in the Army. He went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, then deployed to Germany. That was during the first Iraq War, I believe, first Desert Storm. And I remember him coming back and having a pretty solid like daily regimen. Like his schedule was, you know, if things didn't happen and things got disrupted, you know, a new level of cleanliness in his life, right? Like he just became a more structured, polished individual, a little more serious.
Yeah.
And I think like if I think about friends or coworkers and everything who's been in the military, there's just like another level of maturity there.
Yeah, I think,
somehow.
Especially on the outside, I don't think I'm any less fun than I was before the Army, but I definitely think I come off more stoic now.
Right.
Whereas if you saw me in high school, I was probably smiling and going and doing something stupid.
Yeah.
But in the Army, you kind of develop this outward appearance. I think that's more important. You're still who you are internally.
Yeah.
I don't think it really necessarily changed me as a person on certain levels. It certainly did. I became more regimented. I became more accountable in certain aspects. That's why I developed my desire to help grow people on a personal level was there, because I got to be a team leader and fill in as a squad leader at times.
Oh yeah.
So to watch a brand new private go from not knowing the saying in the Army is, excuse my French, is not knowing his ass from his elbow, to watch him go from that to a fluent soldier, that really instilled a pride in me to watch someone else grow.
And you're kind of responsible for that.
In that role, team leader is the first kind of instructor role in the Army. So, they say it's the most important role in the Army, whether or not that's true, or they're just trying to boast or your ego, because this is your first time in leadership.
Yeah.
Two different things, but to be able to have hands-on on someone else's development really is an inspiring thing.
Yeah, I think I find, anytime that we're doing any kind of instructional teaching here at the Market Center, get to, any kind of teaching, I really enjoy that too. So I know I can relate to that. If someone comes up to me, especially someone, younger, and says, hey, you made an impact, right? And I'm doing things differently now, man, there's nothing greater than that. And we're interviewing Kate Carlton later today, who's really, just taken what Nina or me or other leaders within our, business here have you plant that seed, and then she's just taken it and run with it. And she's an example of, if you follow the models and you listen to what your mentor's saying and you follow through with it, how you can really accomplish some big things. Not always an easy road, I will say that. And I'm sure in the military there's a lot more regulations than what we're dealing with here, as far as like a business. In business you have a lot more flexibility, but yeah, that's interesting, man. I didn't know that you had that background of educational background.
Yeah,
that's cool.
At a light level, I wasn't out there teaching or changing, training.
Still,
but
that life experience, right?
Yeah.
And you're a younger guy. How old are you now?
Now 23.
23. So I'm 47. So I'm double your age, and it's like, I think back to when I was 23 and what kind of impact I was making, and it was with a hammer, and a nail. So it was like, it was a different type until I became a crew leader, right? It's like you make an impact on people in any small amount, and it's really it's self-fulfilling too, but also just like one of the greatest things in life, I think, besides spreading love. Right. So you get out the military and you decide you're going into real estate. You've already made up your mind at that point. How did we get from there to here?
So when I had found out that I was getting out of the military, it was kind of like, oh crap, what do I do now? This was the plan. 20 years in the military, retired, 38 years old, and then find another job, retire with 2 retirements at 58. That was the goal. Maybe get into politics or something like that. I'm getting out of the military I was probably 21 at the time. And I was like, crap, I really have no college degree. Not to say no skills, but I didn't really want to go into security. There were certain jobs I couldn't do because of the reason why I got out of the Army.
Did you move back in with your parents, or?
So I just went home for the holidays. I had gotten out in late October, and I have a much younger brother. My parents divorced, and then my mother had a younger son with her second husband. So for me, getting out like late October was perfect, because now I can go home, spend Halloween with him, spend Thanksgiving with him, spend the Christmas with my entire family. But then January 15th, 3 months later, I'm in North Carolina in my own apartment.
Wow.
Ride or die, this is either going to sink or swim. I was really dedicated. That level of independence is hard to lose. So it's really hard to go from, I've lived on my own for 3 years, to living with your parents. And my parents aren't intrusive. My mother's not these are the rules. You know, I mean, we had rules growing up, but I'm now 21 years old. I've been in the Army for 3 years. She wasn't going to crack the whip.
A man.
Yeah. So I didn't have any lack of privacy or anything like that. Right. But there's just a level of, I've lived on my own for 3 years. I'm not going to go back to that.
When you're at home, you want to let your parents know when you're coming. Like our daughter's, you know, here on winter break. Mm-hmm. Hopefully that's all that it is. But like, you know, she lets us know, you know what I mean? Because when you're living with someone, you kind of let them know.
It's just the respect thing of like, if I'm coming home at 3 a.m, you want to know it's me and not some stranger.
That's right.
You know, so there is a level of respect with living with someone else, even though they maybe don't even expect it. It's just the right thing to do.
A little bit of pressure on you too, to be like, oh man, I've got to like let them know.
Yeah.
You know?
So it was just one less thing I really didn't want to deal with, was losing that independence that I've had for 3 years.
Yeah.
So it was like, I'll be home for the holidays. I hadn't been home for a Halloween or a Thanksgiving 3 years. Mm-hmm. So knocked those out. Christmas came, and Christmas time I'm moving here to get my license and to start this career path.
Yeah. And so now here we are doing this amazing
yeah,
podcast together.
Right, yeah, it kind of changed. I mean, I never would have thought I'd be doing this. I certainly would have never thought I'd be interviewing people in the capacity I was, even at the local level, just me and interviewing mega agents. I mean, really, it's one of those things where you walk in, you talk about imposter syndrome. Why am I the guy who they chose to ask these questions?
Because you're good at it. I'm just saying, like,
I appreciate
great
it.
interviewer.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
You keep things on path where I go down this rabbit hole, and there's another one to the left, and I go down that one, and you know, it's a little bit of ADHD going on there. Where we could talk for 5 hours here, really.
Yeah.
I could ask you question after question, and then we would go. You know, I'd tell a story, and then we come back to you. Who do you think, if you can think of a person, has had the most significant impact on your life? And when I say that, for me, I will say, you know, speaking for myself, there's someone that personally has, and there's someone in business. Mm-hmm. Like, those things are kind of different.
Yeah.
But for you, like, if you think back on your life up to this point, who do you think those people, those individuals would be?
Yeah, I guess I would say the same thing. Kind of in each part of my life, there was a different figure who was the influential figure at the time. Growing up, I'd probably say it was my grandparents, my mother's parents. Nothing against my father's family was great, but I really, at times, almost lived with my mother's family. After my parents split, my mother's mother picked me up from school every day. I saw her almost every day. I would be going home to her house, doing homework while she's watching Days of Our Lives or whatever she's watching on the television. And that, her husband, that grandfather, he was also in the Army, so he definitely, like my father, kind of pushed me in that direction. Not ever in a, you have to do this really way, but it was that's kind of the role I'm going to take, is probably the Army. My family always wanted me to go in the military, but I think they always wanted me to go into college and be an officer and do that route.
Right.
My grandfather and my father never really pushed that on me. It was like, look, join the military and do it the way you want to do it. Yeah. So those two, he really gave me that perspective of stop listening to what everyone else is saying.
Go
kind of be selfish. Make a selfish decision, because
I like that.
A selfish decision really will benefit others in the long run.
It's powerful. Yeah. No, that lesson at your age to learn that is.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it's taken me 47 years to learn that lesson.
Yeah, sometimes it's okay to be selfish. It's really a fundamental part to, I think, everyone's life, is realizing at one moment it's okay to say, nope, I'm doing this for me.
Yeah.
And that's because a lot of people are over giving. They'll give every part of themselves.
Right.
And then they never grow.
Yeah.
Or, their family never grows because they're so into the work side of things, they're never home. They never see their kids. They never see their spouse.
Yeah,
you can overgive really easily.
Yeah. I've done it. We've all done
everyone
it.
has, yeah.
I mean, I will say there's periods of life that you'll go through in the future that, there's exceptions to your like core values of, being there with the family and everything, where it's like, okay, now we need to make an exception, and I need to pour all of my energy into the work side of things in order to pay the bills or to grow the company,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's some sort of sacrifice to be made there, but you can also approach that in a way where you let your family know, and if they're on board,
Mm-hmm.
it's you know, it's always better when you've got the team behind you, because those are the people that you really can fall back and depend on. So what about
Yeah.
from a work?
So in the Army, I will say I had at first he was a team leader and then a squad leader, and truly to this day a friend. His name's Robert Daly, and we
Shout
joke,
out to-
yeah, to Rob. I would say he was the most influential on me because I was a little bit of a delinquent. If there was something I could get away with when I joined the Army, I was going to get away with it.
Right.
And he was very much nope, there's the right way to do things, and this is the way it's going to be done.
Yeah.
And so, to our methods shouldn't have worked, but it did. And I convinced him that it's okay to break a rule every now and then. And he was like, yeah, but there's some rules that don't get broken. And so he really put some responsibility on me at times.
That's good.
Yeah. And then, I mean, here, I can't even name one. I mean, you, Rich, Bergrath, Nina, Julie Fielding. I mean, there's been so many people in this building that have poured into me and had no reason to, other than I was here.
I feel the same, man. I mean, it's mutual.
Yeah.
You may not understand the impact you have, but like it's through your actions, right? So by contributing what you have up to this point, like someone your age, honestly, they have a lot of distractions and other priorities going on a lot of times, but you've really kind of shown us what focus and dedication, like if you say you're doing something, you participate and actually do it. And I think that's something that, I don't want to say your generation, but like
but
there's some men in your generation who that doesn't register with, and it's more of a laissez-faire attitude, and they just kind of going through life and see what happens and what I bump into, and if there's an opportunity to take advantage of something, I will, instead of being purposeful about building something and starting, laying the blocks for the foundation. We've talked about this, and you've got this plan that you've developed and these set of rules that you follow, and I think that's really it's really interesting, and a lot of guys your age could kind of learn from that standard that you've set for yourself. You've got standards for yourself.
I do. I do have rules that I follow that keep me in line, keep me, I think, in the direction I want to go.
And it kind of determines how others treat you. Like, now that I know those rules, there's a certain way I'm going to interact with you, because I know that you've set those standards. I always say this about like open houses. I don't just have a random agent in the office do an open house without having a 15-minute conversation with them, because I want to know what their scripts are. I want to talk to them about what the seller's expectation is, and when they're done, I need feedback to give to the seller, right? So like everything has its process and standards. And when you don't put those in place for yourself and for others, how they interact with you, it's a circus show, right?
Yeah, it becomes a slippery slope if you start to just fly by the seat of your pants. And it is a thing. It's a personal thing for me, but then it also, I think, will help me, at least when it comes to expanding as well, as having standards that I impose on myself. I really don't think it's fair to ever impose a standard on someone that you don't impose on yourself. I'm big on like the hypocritical side of, I don't get to tell you to wear a suit to work every day if I don't wear a suit to work every day.
Right.
Big on that. And so that's why I love having my standards at such a young age, because when it comes time for me to hire, it's a buyer's agent or an admin or something, I'll feel comfortable saying, look, this is the standard. I'll meet it every day you do. So there's no screwing
I'm the leader, follow me is what that's telling people. I'll be honest, that's where that's headed. I'm the leader, this is the standard for our team or whatever. So that's cool. So now that we've got you warmed up, what is your favorite food in local restaurant? I always like to ask that question so that...
That's an interesting one. I mean, I've been here, I think I've been in the Carolinas, it's going to be 2 years this January, and I haven't tried nearly as much as I should. There is a true nostalgic thing about Italian food for me.
Yeah.
And funny enough, it's not the most extravagant meal in the Italian cuisine, but I love a great chicken parmigiano. It is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's with a good feta penne.
Oh yeah.
It is. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Sunday sauce. I love a good hot Italian sausage on the side. But there's something, if I'm going to a restaurant, chicken parm is my go-to. Let's see if I can trust this place to make this right, and then I'll get adventurous.
Okay, so where's that spot?
I'll be honest. The best restaurant I've had down here, and I actually haven't had their chicken parm.
Please don't say Olive Garden.
Oh, I would never. I would.
Don't do it, man.
I'm not
Don't
stepping footing in an Olive Garden.
Okay.
But actually, Molino's in Raleigh.
Molino's
was very good. I was just there.
Where's that located at?
That's a good question. It's not off like the downtown strip. The exact street it's on, I'd have to look up.
Is it headed into downtown on the right near the?
It's almost near like the warehouse district. It's really I think the only restaurant, and then there's some apartment buildings across from it.
Really?
I can't think. It's in an interesting part of town.
Yeah.
It's almost like a nice part of town because to me, if I lived in those apartments, it'd be like I'd be there every day. I'd be spending money at Molino's.
Harley Davidson place maybe or something.
I'm not sure.
Coming in from that side of downtown. Coming from the Wake Forest Road?
Yeah, definitely, coming from, I got off the Wake Forest exit, getting in,
I gotta go find this
place. Look up Molino's, very good. It's a nice restaurant.
They have a good bruschetta over there?
Oh yeah, and the service was fantastic. I mean, the waitress came over and she recommended a wine, and I know what kind of wines I like.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm looking for a Chianti or an Aradavola, and there wasn't one by the bottle, and I was there with someone, so I was like, all right, well, let me just take the waitress's suggestion and run with it. And it was fantastic. I mean, it was one of the best red wines I've had, which sounds terrible because now when you ask what is it, I'm going to say I don't remember. But it was so good. The service was fantastic. The portions. I mean, I had to take food home, and I usually can crush it.
That's the way it should be at an Italian restaurant.
Yeah, definitely. You definitely. The portion is going to be big enough.
For family to share if you wanted to, right?
Yeah, you're going to spend in Raleigh. You're going to spend good money at a good restaurant. So having a large portion is nice because now you've got 2 meals.
Yeah.
And so that's a really good place. And then for just pizza, I haven't had any of their other food there, but DeFara's in Cary.
Oh yeah, man.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's probably the best
New York pizza. I mean, it is. I can't rave about it.
And they're a fairly new restaurant. To me,
I
hadn't heard about it.
Or something like that.
Sayer took me there for lunch one day. He's like, dude, I just tried this place. You've got to go. It's like the best pizza in town.
Yeah.
Like a wood-fired oven type.
Yep.
So there's our 2 recommendations if you want.
Yeah.
And this is from the original Italian stallion, Mike D'Amore. This guy lives, eats, and breathes Italian. So, if you want some great food, DeFario's and
Molino's. Yeah, I would say DeFara's Pizza Tavern. It's the nephew of the original DeFara's in Brooklyn. Yeah. So they're not going to mess around. And Molino's, I don't know their lineage. Maybe it's a family that came down here from New York. Maybe it's a...
We need to find out. Let's go. We'll go talk to them and get back to you guys.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
Maybe we'll have an interview with them.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
And if the only person there is the chef, we'll interview him.
Exactly.
Get you guys some more information. What kind of, I want to say, book, podcast, YouTube series, intellectual type material do you study or have you found as a resource, either personally or professionally?
So, before I was in real estate, I was not an avid reader. I read quite a bit in school, but in the Army, it was just not on my radar.
Right.
So I've been getting back into reading, and to just keep things simple and kind of the same, I've stuck with kind of the Gary Keller books.
Okay.
To get even Gary Keller's podcast, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent podcast with him and Jay Papasan.
Okay.
I just finished that. I just listened to that while I'm in the gym, and I just have.
I'll be honest, I haven't listened to that one, but I heard it's just.
It's 6 seasons, 5 episodes each.
Are there lessons to be learned by listening to that podcast that can apply to other industries, or is it pretty much real? Are they talking real estate the whole time, or how do they? So
the first season kind of introduces Gary's story, so you can learn a lot from that. I mean, Gary's story is kind of, as he puts it, a failed musician. He thought he was going to be playing guitar in a band.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And after his first show, he comes home, he's like, I hated it.
Yeah.
So his parents sent him to college, to get a business degree. And it was a business, if I remember correctly, I could be wrong, a business degree with like a minor in real estate. Mm-hmm. And so he thought he was just going to go work as an accountant and interviews with an accountant and interviews with a friend who was a realtor, ends up picking that career path, and the rest is history. Wow. So there's a lot to be learned, even in subliminal messages of just following someone's story and seeing the obstacles they faced, how they overcame them, how to grow a business, how to take advice from someone else even though you think you're right.
Damn, that's powerful, man.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of lessons to be learned in that podcast.
Yeah, say that again, how to take advice.
How to take advice even though you're certain you're right.
Yeah, that's, wow.
Yeah.
I love that, man. We need to break out that clip.
Yeah.
And put that as a standalone, because that's a pretty prolific statement. Have you, let me ask this, what, this is a fun question. What purchase have you made lately that has increased your quality of life, made things easier for you? Mm-hmm. For example, I remember when I first started in real estate, we went to a conference and this is my first time going to one of these long Keller Williams, 20,000 people there, and
right.
The phone battery runs out about halfway through the day.
Oh, geez.
Right?
Yeah.
And my buddy over here's got it's a portable charger Mophie.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. And all these like little tech gadgets, and I was like, that's it. I mean, I think I've given, people that as a Christmas gift a few times.
Yeah.
But is there anything you can think of that's made your personal or work life, saved you time, whatever?
Yeah.
However you quantify that.
Yeah. Honestly, it was kind of a stress reliever. With my last closing, I paid off my car.
Yeah.
And that is one of those things where it's like, even if I had the worst month in real estate, didn't make $1, there's no one who can come knock on my door and say, hey,
You have a nice car.
I mean, I'm not. It's
what kind of car do you have?
It's a Mercedes E350.
Yeah, okay. Let's don't be too modest, man. It's okay.
I do love my car.
It's paid off and
Mercedes.
It's nice, smooth business, luxury type, car. So like, you've got it's for you. It's like financial security almost.
Yeah,
you don't need to worry if you don't, and then you kind of, when you make a big commission check, you can figure out where to put it and not.
Right, it doesn't have to be saved, so I can make, that car payment every month.
Yeah, we'll have to talk more about that from, when we get somebody in here who knows about, how to run a business and taxes and all of that stuff. I'd love to interview someone
and
with
even
like
credit,
a little bit CPA background or something.
Because I mean, there is an argument to be had that having a car payment is good.
Yeah.
Because if you can make it every month, that's a credit. It's going on your credit report, and that's a payment you've made every month. It looks good.
Yeah. We'll dive deeper into that. I think we'll do some sort of subset of wealth and financial series or something. There's a lot of these.
Well, I'm no credit expert. I'll say that right now. I just have the basics.
And a lot of times they can't give advice, financial advice on these type things, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what kind of limits we can push with people.
I
love doing that. So, I kind of wrote down a series of questions to ask people and kind of going through those and asking you. So, like, what does your schedule look like on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? Like, do you have a very strict calendar? What is the goal there? Mm-hmm. Like, when you think about your daily schedule, like, what are you trying to accomplish by that schedule? Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird question. I kind of double-ended that, but like, do you have a schedule is the first question, because a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
Do you live by your calendar, and what are you trying to accomplish by doing that? Like, what are some of the things in your calendar to reach those different goals that you're running towards?
The biggest thing in my calendar, I will say, and the biggest, maybe not the best word, but the most important to me is that my calendar starts at a time and ends at a time.
Oh, okay.
I work 7 to 7.
Okay.
That is a 12-hour workday. You can call me with the dumbest question in the world.
Right.
And,
it's work time.
It's work time. 7 to 7, you're not bothering me. 7 to 7, I'm not going to go out, not going to do anything that's going to
Now, this disclaimer: Mike doesn't have a wife and kids yet.
This is true, yeah.
Or any pets that we know about.
No pets.
Not even a fish.
Yeah, not even a fish.
Yeah. Low personal responsibility.
Oh yeah.
Beyond to yourself and your health.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's really where it comes from. Is. Yeah.
So you're working the maximum. I mean, you're working 12-hour.
12-hour day.
Yeah.
7 days a week. I try to give myself Sundays off. Sunday's a family day for me.
Sure.
Just that's how I was raised. But I've done open houses on Sundays. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I don't work Sundays. Yeah. But the big thing for me is a 12-hour workday. That's not stretching myself too thin. That's 12 hours of work, 8 hours of sleep, 4 hours of personal time.
Yeah.
That is all I need. Because like you said, 23, single, no kids, no pets.
When did you start that pattern?
The day, I shouldn't say the day I joined real estate. It was funny enough, I was going to do the old, well, this is my biggest value proposition, is you could call me at 3 in the morning. And I remember when I joined here, I got partnered with Rich Berggraf as my mentor in the ALC. And I told him that during my mock listing presentation. And he said, I will never say that again. Looked right at me and goes, never.
Solid advice, Rich.
Yeah, never say you work 24/7 again.
Yeah, because they'll always expect that from
someone will call you at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And then, it's one of those
set
things.
that expectation from the first day.
Right at the get-go, yeah. And it's one of those things, too, where it's like, there's very few instances where you need to call someone at 3 a.m.
Real estate emergency.
Right.
Yeah.
House is on fire, we close tomorrow,
call
me at 3 a.m.
Department.
Well, yes.
Right. Call the insurance.
Yeah.
That phone call is really short, or a text. Call your local fire department and call your insurance agent, right? Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting because as I'm listening to you answer all these questions, I'm not the greatest listener in the world, but I'm listening and I'm thinking in my mind, how would I answer these questions? And I hope that the audience kind of does the same thing.
Yeah.
I think that's the whole purpose of this is for us. And I think it'll be like the camera's over there, we're over here kind of talking to each other. It's a little bit stoic and it doesn't feel as natural right now.
Yeah.
And I hope as it progresses, it can be something more, at least for me, something a little more laid back.
Well,
we maybe change the scenario a little bit where we're in an environment where we're just, sitting there in our banana pajamas talking real life, man, with these people. I think, whenever someone knows that they're being recorded and can kind of see the camera over there, you're not getting, it takes a long time to get to the real authentic
who you are.
Person. What is the top 2 struggles? They can be trauma or whatever in your life that you've had to overcome, and how did you do that?
Top 2 struggles. The biggest one was, so I got out of the military kind of involuntarily, developed what's called bilateral compartment syndrome. So in both my legs I developed this disease where I'm no doctor, so I'm not going to explain it correctly, but in my simple layman's terms understanding, my muscles build this pressure up and the human body's supposed to stop at 15 pressures per cubic whatever, and some of my compartments go up to 80. And so I feel an extreme pain with any kind of flexation of my muscles from my knee down, which is then, my body then decided to not put pressure there, so then it started to hold my weight in my knees and my hips, so those are starting to
transfer
to deteriorate a little bit. And so that's why I was asked to leave the military, and so that was a real struggle for me, because like I said, that took...
And you're young, so you're like,
I got that news at 21. It might have been 20 when I got that news.
Yeah.
And actually, we found out because and not to brag, but I did very well in the Army. Got a waiver to each rank. And so at less than 2 years in, they're asking me to go to the promotion board. And at my 2-year mark, they want to give me sergeant. And so I'm doing this, to do a promotion board, you have to have a PT test. And it's in this PT test where I couldn't pass the 2-mile run because I was in such pain.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is serious. My platoon sergeant was like, tomorrow you're going to see, we were actually at the board at the time, so they sent us to a Navy doctor. Navy doctor says, we're really not really sure what it could be extreme shin splints. When you get back to post in Louisiana, follow up with your, primary care doctor there. We followed up. She immediately knew what it was. She could feel that.
Now, does the military have a really advanced medical I would think their medicine, like their doctors would have advanced imaging, like access to every kind of.
I couldn't speak.
Tool.
I couldn't speak on that. I don't know.
They did an MRI or like CAT scan, or
yeah,
do they have all those?
I think they did an MRI, but honestly, my primary care doctor was almost certain right away. And then there was actually a test we had to do, which was the most pain I've ever experienced in my life.
Oh.
They stick a needle that I swear was like that big into each of my compartments like 8 times. Then I had to run to make my legs hurt, and then they retook the readings to see what my.
That's the test to find out. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, I couldn't speak on the advances that the military doctors have versus regular doctors. What I will say is that my disease was kind of so easy to realize. My primary care doctor had me run a 2-mile run, and said just stop when you need to. So I ran like a mile that day in excruciating pain. I'm limping to her, and she felt my legs. She goes, "Yeah, it's compartment syndrome. Your legs feel like rocks."
So what are you doing now to kind of like what is the therapy for that, or if there is any?
Yeah, so preventative maintenance, really. I mean, I can't undo it. There's supposedly a surgery that doctors can do for it. I haven't signed up to do it. The orthopedic doctor at Fort Polk said it doesn't necessarily work, especially with your high readings. I don't think it's necessarily the best idea.
Yeah.
And so I chose not to do it, and still haven't done it yet, and gotten a second opinion from a civilian doctor. But right now, I just do chiropractic care as kind of the preventative maintenance to keep, my body in its best condition as you can. I'll never get rid of the pain. I'll have it, but I mitigate it, and I've got a pretty decent tolerance for pain. It doesn't ruin my day.
Okay.
I get a little stiff. The pain stiffens me up. So if I was to drive to New York right now, that 10-hour drive in this position, it sucks, but it's not like I have to go to the emergency room after a 10-hour drive. It's just a consistent annoyance.
So you've kind of compartmentalized that mentally, you can kind of put that pain over here and go, you know what, this is, I've experienced this before, let's don't let it derail the entire day.
And I purposely go out of my way to not irritate it. Right. So I'm not gonna, if I'm running late, I'm not gonna start running from my office to my car. That's gonna irritate it. So you know what I mean? It's one of those things where I'd rather just call you and say, hey Ben, I'm gonna be 5 minutes late to the interview today. I'm not gonna.
Hey, that's you know what? That's again, just you saying that. It's better sometimes to just call and say, hey, look, I'm running a couple minutes late.
Yeah.
I'll be there at such and such a time. The problem is when you don't make that call and you just show up late.
That call is my favorite thing in the world. Because I had it happen to me.
Make that call. There's your tip of
truly. If I can give any advice on keeping your word to me isn't doing everything you said you were going to do. It's doing everything you said you were going to do in the way that you could.
Yeah.
So if you couldn't, and you knew you were going to be late, or you knew you were going to screw up, or you were in over your head, just be an adult and admit it.
Integrity.
And there's nothing wrong. Some people do. I get that. That's kind of some people get mad when they hear you screwed up. I never get mad when I hear you screwed up. I get mad when I hear you screwed up from someone else.
Yeah.
That's
tough.
A huge irritation.
Isn't it more painful when you wait too? I can think of so many situations where, and in real estate in particular, we've got to make these really difficult phone calls or communications with clients or even reaching out, like we do care calls and call clients and see how they're doing. It may not even be to stir up business, just checking on people because we love them and care about them. And when you procrastinate those calls and don't do it, the longer you wait, man, it becomes this mountain to make that call.
Yeah.
And I don't know that people can tell. You know what I mean? It's probably internal. Mm-hmm. And I'm harder. We're harder on ourselves.
You're definitely going to be harder on yourself. Yeah.
But yeah, man. So I think that's something that people can learn from right there. I mean, I know, I heard that from someone else. I didn't make that up. It may have been Gary Keller or somebody at one of these conferences about, doing the right thing in the moment and doing sometimes. I mean, life's tough. Life's hard, man. It's batting 100%. So when times get tough, the best thing I've found is just to meet it head on and, kind of face those things and the harder it is, sometimes the more rewarding it is. Like the hardest
Yeah.
things that we've done to get to where we are in this industry have been the most rewarding, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I mean, is there any hidden talent that you have that we should know about?
I actually don't think I have any hidden talents. There's some I'd like to have.
I've asked you this before,
Yeah.
and you said, "Oh, I'm kind of a well-rounded guy," which is kind of like me.
Yeah.
I'm well-rounded, but I'm not.
Yeah, there's nothing
Proficient
that
in one
there's nothing that I'm
area.
like a master at. There's nothing like
Yeah.
that I'm not a fantastic
You're
singer.
not a cellist.
Yeah, and that really is though. There's things on my bucket list that I want hidden
Sing
talents.
opera.
I wish I could actually. I would love to be able to sing some songs alongside Andrea Bocelli.
That would be amazing.
Oh, it'd be
He is-
fantastic. Yeah. But yeah, no. A hidden talent that I'd like to learn is it's on my bucket list, and I say bucket list, but I don't want to wait until I'm at that point where I need a bucket list. It's something I want to do now. Is to learn how to golf and to learn how to play piano. Those are two things.
Yeah.
Golfing's great for anything. I think it's great for business. It's one of the most business informal meetings you'll have. You know what I mean? Like plenty of business meetings happen on the golf
We
course.
have a few people here that can teach you that.
I know. Yeah, I know.
Eric
There's
and Karen.
there's some,
I mean, they're
some
rakers,
golfers here.
man.
Yeah.
And
But
we'll
then,
find out later today whose hidden talent is piano.
Yeah.
That's a little.
yeah,
Maybe
that's-
that little tidbit.
that'd be-
We'll find out later today. But
Yeah.
you'd be surprised how many people know how to play piano and
Oh,
don't
yeah.
ever.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where I think it kind of got lost. But back in the day, in my opinion, it was one of the classiest things you could know how to do. Was know how to play
I would
piano.
love to learn.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
dad could. He's always had. He's always had an electric.
Okay,
He played electric organ in college, and
Mhm.
so he could probably teach us how to play.
there you go.
Now that he's retired, we'll put that on.
We'll give him a
too.
call.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
go to Holly Springs and tell him. So, well, I think we take a break now. Take a little 2-minute break, and then we can switch up the interview and.
Yeah, we'll get your backstory. I mean,
Do that.
I've talked an awful lot, so I will switch it up, and let's hear the story of Ben Parker.
Oh man, here we go.